Hey YouTube, this is just my impression of the Canon XF400 after having it for a week here at the house. And I have to say, I kind of have mixed feelings about this camera. First things first, something I just cannot get past, and maybe it's just being spoiled on other cameras with multiple physical buttons, is the fact that this just doesn't have that many physical buttons for changing settings. It's really menu driven, and once you get used to using actual physical buttons, I think it's just hard to go back to menus. Another thing too, and I kind of pointed it out in my initial impression video last week, was this just isn't a true successor to the XF200. It just isn't. You know, the body wise, this is almost identical to the XA series. The one ring, which again in my other video I said I really don't mind. It's not a big deal to me, but it's the price point. You know, you're looking at $3,000 for an XA camera basically. It is not an XF camera. You know, I always thought if they were the successor to the XF200 in 4K, they should have just kept that body, because ergonomically that camera was basically perfect. It just, the sensor was very noisy even in good lighting, and you know, dim lighting didn't really do very well. I had really hoped, like, if they took this sensor, these chips, and put it into the XF200 body, you'd basically have almost a perfect camera. The image quality that comes out of this camera is fantastic, at least in my opinion. I know there was someone in one of the forums who did not like it. It didn't work very well for them. He was having focus issues. I haven't had really any focus issues. The only focus issue I had was, if you look on my channel, the other night I filmed that night scene with the Christmas trees, and that's like in the downtown area near where I live. There's like a statue of something, I don't remember what it was, but just focusing on the head and kind of panning down and going back up just to kind of include the statue. When I was in autofocus, it was hunting almost, which was really odd because it's a statue, it wasn't moving, but all the other things I filmed out there were fine. To alleviate that problem, I put it in manual focus mode, touched the screen, so that was its focus point, and that issue was gone. It didn't have any focus issues. So I don't know if that's an issue with this camera, as far as like if it's gonna have autofocusing, like hunting issues. I haven't filmed anything with lots of crowds where I could actually like focus on one particular person or something and see how it tracks them. You know, you can see all my videos have been with my dogs who aren't really moving, my lizard, Christmas trees, stuff that's really not moving. And as far as that stuff goes, I haven't had any focus issues. So I can't really comment on, you know, if you were to use this camera for a wedding or baptism or, you know, some special event for someone, how it would do. I mean, obviously you would hate to have that hunting issue during something really important like that. Now my Panasonic HCX1 does not do that at all. I mean, I've used that for a couple big events for paying gigs, and that thing's just been amazing. I love it. This, I don't know, that would be kind of concerning that, again, it was just that statue issue, but I don't know. I mean, people say, oh, it's a professional camera, you should be manual focusing anyway, but certain things, how I film them, I just use autofocus. It's simple. You know, I know how to manual focus and things, but if I have someone behind the camera that's not familiar with it, who's not used to using cameras like this, I like to be able to give them something to film with and know that they're comfortable, like they can get the shot that's going to be in focus. So it's a little concerning to see that other user, I think it was the DVX forum, the DV user forum, that had that issue. Again, I haven't had that issue, but I haven't filmed a big event either with it. You know, another thing that really bothers me about this camera is just the amount of codecs that you have. It's just, when I did the first video, I think you got your 3040 by 2160 60p, and then you got your 1920 by 1080, and I think there's a 720, you know, and there's like 5 choices you could film in, and 5 basic like megabits per second codecs, or, you know, you either got your, I think it's 100 on this, 100 megabits per second for the 4K, but then it's 35 megabits for your 1920 by 1080. I think it drops down to 17, and then something else, like, you know, for probably like for proxy files and things like that. But that's it, you know, and that's just like, I think in 2017, that doesn't cut it. You know, I'm gonna insert part of this video the different menus in my Panasonic HCX1, and the amount of codecs and bit rates you can choose from is just astounding. I mean, this camera gives you 5. So you're either doing 4K, or if you want 1920 by 1080 HD, you're at 35 megabits per second, which I just think is unacceptable in 2017. You know, the minimum should be 50. I mean, this RX10 Sony bridge camera that I'm filming on does 50, and I don't even, this is like a few years old. So it's just disappointing to see that in this day and age. So I don't know, there's a couple things that I'm just not very happy with this camera at this price point. The physical buttons, the amount of codec choices is just, I don't know, it's just, I don't think it's worth $3,000. I think if this was a $2,000 camera, I think that's fair. But at three grand, it's just, I just think it's overpriced. You know, again, I just wish they would have just took that XF200 body and put this sensor in it, and you'd be good to go. I mean, if this is truly an XF camera that you lost your 3 rings, which again, it doesn't bother me, but to turn the handle, you know, which was, you could swivel it, that's gone. In the XF200, this handle isn't removable. This one is. So, and I don't have a problem with like that, but that's an XA series feature. This is supposed to be an XF camera, and those just aren't features to the old XF cameras. So I really think that Canon is trying to push this off as XF, even though it's an XA update. It's your 4K version of your XA update that you've probably been waiting for a couple years now from Canon. So I don't want to sound sour on this camera. The image quality has been really good. I have a 70-inch 4K HDR10 TV, and that video I put up yesterday, Saturday morning with the Lake Catherine, that, if you watch that on the 4K television, it is extremely sharp. Beautiful picture, like you're there. So I don't think the image quality is an issue, but the one thing I would say about that was filmed during the day. And I think any camera in 2017 is going to look really nice in daylight. This, in the nighttime shot, I thought looked okay. The indoor shots I thought looked okay, but I also have a camera light. If I was ever going to film a wedding, I would always bring that with me. So I'm not too concerned with low light, but with 1-inch sensor on my other cameras, the Sony NX100, the Panasonic HCX1, I don't have any issues with low light and hunting with, you know, for focusing and things like that. So I think the sensor size is perfect, but for the price, I just can't recommend it. So I'm gonna do some more tests this week, and you know, this is, I don't mean to rant or beat on the camera. I think it's an amazing camera, but I just don't think it's worth the price and what they're asking for it. So I'm gonna insert a little clip real quick too of the Panasonic codecs. You can kind of see what I'm talking about. So thanks for watching, and I will post something up again shortly. Thanks. Okay, really quick because my camera is about to die. But as you can see on the Panasonic, you have a ton more modes to film, and you got your true 4K 24p, but you got your Ultra HD, UHD in 150 megabits, 124p, 130p. You got your 60p, obviously, 1080, 60p. But look at all the bit rates, 150. And then you go down here, and you got more. I mean, you have a ton of things to choose from, and they're all at least 50 megabits per second. And obviously when you go to 4K, you're at 100, 150. So really quick, hopefully this stays on. Go to the Canon and that's all you get. So again, it's just very disappointing for this price point. A camera, you don't have a lot of choices for codec. And look at it, 35, 17, you know, 8 and 4. I mean, it's just a joke in 2017. I understand there's purposes for those, but who's gonna film that? You know? So it's just very disappointing.